All right, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's Women in BIM webinar. Just to make sure that everyone can hear me, those of you that are attending, can you type something in the chat that in confirmation that you can hear me? Wonderful, thank you. All right, so my name is Aparna Krishna Kumar. I'm the regional lead for Phoenix Metro and tonight's moderator. So, hello. While we provide some time for our registrants to join us, please share where you guys are all joining from. So the city and the country that you're joining from. I'm asking because as of 2 hours ago, we had roughly 100 and some odd folks registered. So, and also representing 19 different countries. We're very excited to have everybody on board. So we would love to see where everyone's joining us from, East Coast of US, West Coast, a different country altogether. Please share while we wait for our additional attendees to join us. We're seeing some good representation across the US, which is great. Got a good chunk of our attendees joining us in. I don't want to take too much time away from the hour that we have because we have a great conversation waiting for everyone to join. So what I'd like to do is proceed with at least the intro. So today's webinar is being recorded, so don't fret if you feel like you won't be able to attend for the entire hour. The recorded session will be posted in 2 locations. One is on our Women in BIM website under the events category, and the second location will be our YouTube channel. Just do a Women in BIM search and you'll be able to find it with ease. And please subscribe. So who are we? I want to dive in to kind of introduce everyone to Women in BIM if you haven't heard of us before. The Phoenix chapter is very new. We just started at the end of last year, had our very first event ever in December. But Women in BIM is actually 10 years old. It was founded in 2012 by Rebecca DeChico with the intention to create a dedicated network for women working in BIM and the digital construction world. Today, we work with many women globally to support career development as well as trying to attract younger women to join the industry. We act as mentors to grow personal and professional skills, encouraging our members to enter BIM and digital related roles in the future. So last year, like I was saying, was our 10th anniversary. Our regional leads all over the world held various events in person and virtual to celebrate. So it was a very exciting time to be able to bring everybody together. Australia held probably the biggest event so far. They had about 100 attendees in person post-pandemic, so it was great to see everybody in person. Women in BIM regional leads support and promote women in BIM in their respective region of the world. These regional leads volunteer their time to help connect you to locally to a wealth of knowledge and innovative thinkers. And then we try to provide educational opportunities also to expand your network. So this is a slightly older map, but kind of shows where a lot of our regional leads are living. So if you're interested in becoming a regional lead for your city and there isn't a regional lead already, please go to our website and download the document that defines what a regional lead is expected to do throughout the year and how to become one. I know we have some regional leads in the call today, so if you are present, please say hi in the chat and let us know which city and or region or country that you're representing. That way our attendees can see who they can reach out to work together on any future events or just get connected. But if being a regional lead is not your cup of tea, that's totally fine. You can always become a member. It's free to join and just gets you one step closer to the various resources that we provide at Women in BIM. All you got to do, go onto our website, go to the membership drop down and click join, add your information, and that's it. You'll get to connect with all of us and see what events that we have and just kind of see how our network is continuing to grow around the world. Also, hopefully today, if you have some time, please join us in our Women in BIM LinkedIn group. This is our primary location where we post any and all events that we are hosting, regardless of which region that we're in. Like today, for example, excuse me. Like I said, we have members representing 19 different countries, which is amazing. This is how we got it out there. So upcoming events, LinkedIn group, and the Women in BIM website. And before we dive in, one major request that I have for all attendees is take a snapshot or scan the QR code that you see on the screen. I'm providing the post-event survey right now because I'm pretty sure we're going to go well into the hour with our session. I don't want to cut anybody off and then provide the QR code at that time. This is our survey just to kind of make sure that we're providing you with good events and topics that you're hoping to learn about, and any and all feedback would be greatly appreciated. So please scan the QR code. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to find me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message and say, hey, Aparna, would love to see a topic about this for a future virtual session. Can you organize it? All right, so without further ado, let's dive right in. Today we have three amazing ladies on the panel. Our first speaker of the evening is going to be Dalia Chalot. She's the VDC manager at Suffolk Construction and speaking from Boston, Pennsylvania, here in the United States. Our second speaker is Khushbu Patel. She's currently a premium support specialist at Autodesk and was previously the BIM VDC manager at Govan Brown and Associates up in Toronto, Canada. And our final speaker is Kinjal Ajmera. She's the BIM manager at HMC Architects and speaking from LA, California, here in the United States. Dalia, you're up.
Thank you. How are you?
Doing wonderful. How are you?
Great to see everyone. And thank you for the introduction. Like you mentioned, my name is Dalia Chalot. I am a VDC manager with Suffolk Construction in Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm a registered architect. I have about 15 years experience. I worked in traditional design for 10 years, and then I switched to construction management about 5 years ago.
Wonderful. Tell us about how you got into the BIM industry.
So I was using all of the tools in traditional design, right? I was using the software, and I was familiar with it. I unfortunately wasn't getting the exposure I wanted to both the technology and the complicated construction when I was working in design. I was working for a wonderful firm, but I was doing mostly interior fit outs, and I wanted to do ground up construction and more complicated technical projects. So I decided to make the switch to construction management. And in addition to, I guess, my lack of exposure to technical projects and ground up construction, I was also in the process of getting my registration, so taking my exams. And unfortunately, I was struggling with one of them, and that was an additional incentive, I guess, for me to do something about it and really see construction ground up and supplement some of my knowledge by being in the field. And this was a great opportunity to use the skills that I had and also add some more knowledge and more experience on high rise and complicated ground up construction. And it was successful. I did get my registration about 6 months after I joined. a construction management company. So
awesome. And I do want to apologize, I got the wrong state.
that's all right.
There. Can you tell us about an experience where you had to implement BIM, or at least speak for BIM at a company or a project that is very memorable to you?
There's a lot of projects. I think what I use BIM, my main focus is coordination for construction. So what I do is I take the models from the design team. They're about 300 level of development, right? So they are developed, they're complete, but they won't give you the level of detail that we need for construction. So we take them to a higher level of development internally, as well as working with our trade partners who produce their own models. And my role is federating these models and looking for clashes. So we're basically building this particular project virtually and looking for any potential issues that might arise in the field. The other advantage of doing this way is it allows for prefabrication. So a lot of our trade partners will prefab large portions of duct or a particular piece of equipment and just bring them to the site and install them instead of measuring in the field and fabricating in the field, installing in the field. It gives them both a time advantage and a financial incentive for it. And then one particular project that I wanted to share with you that I work with, we did all the typical things in this project. Let me see if I can quickly share my screen. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
This one. Can you see this screen?
We can see Navisworks.
Yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, it's not highlighting what I'm looking at. So this was Gillette Stadium. For those of you logging in from outside the United States, this is a very popular stadium in the United States. We see it on TV on every Sunday, and that was actually one of the focus for this coordination, keeping in mind this is going to be on television, this is going to be a big audience, and in a way of a high profile project, not necessarily the most complex one, but with really, really high visibility. So in addition to doing kind of the typical coordination that we would do for our BIM coordination, we also kept in mind keeping this building as streamlined and as elegant as possible in all the detail of the construction, knowing it was going to be really visible during construction and completion. And I have a quick photo I pulled from Twitter here of the building construction, and you can see we're about a quarter of the way with our giant screen here. So this is going to be, I think, the largest screen in an outdoor stadium. Quite an impressive feat.
Looks and sounds super exciting.
It was super fun.
For those
and
that
kind
know,
of an unusual application for BIM and VDC management, keeping in mind that this is going to be on national TV, I guess, every Sunday, right? So it had to look good during construction too.
when it came to this project, is there something that stumped you and you had to kind of do a little bit of extra research beyond what you may have learned in learning material, whether it's, and we're talking software related, were there any add-ons that you needed to use specifically to get your job done, or was using Navisworks alone enough?
We used the Navisworks alone on this one. I didn't use any plugins, but what we did use for it was existing construction data. So we did do a 3D scan of the existing conditions, and we looked at particularly the trusses that were there. We had to look at those in their existing condition, and instead of rebuilding that data, we just used a point cloud for it. So again, we kind of tried to streamline that process.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dalia, for introducing
My pleasure.
We'll come right back to you in a little bit, but next up, we're going to move on to Khushbu Patel. Come on down.
Thank you,
Hi,
Aparna.
the
Hi.
stage is yours.
Hi, I'm Khushbu Patel. I have my background is civil engineering, and I did my post-graduation in urban planning. I have 1 year of experience, work experience in urban planning, and 7 years of experience in BIM. My journey to BIM started when I came across a job opportunity as a BIM modeler in 2014 back home in India before I immigrated to Canada. It was something new to which I was introduced at that time, and just curiosity led me to this field. And yeah, here I am now. I immigrated to Canada before 3 years in 2019, and I started working with general contractors as BIM coordinator. And then I landed a job with Common Brown as and worked there for 2.5 years as a BIM manager. Common Brown is a part of Structure Tone in United States. So we were part of a big organization, got to work on big projects, had good amount of experience. And to work as a BIM manager and work on the coordination process on a general contractors and is even an experience in itself. It's what I felt during my journey. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. When you were at Govan Brown, were they aware of BIM? If they were, how far along were they before you joined?
So Gordon Brown had kind of an established BIM process, but it was very on the initial stage. So it checked the basic boxes of required for a BIM coordination, and that was about it. So one of the things when I started with them, which we went head first on, was how do we give a predictable outcome to our clients. And that's how I realized that we need to utilize the technology through BIM VDC and to implement that as at a very early stage of construction. So I my BIM VDC process at Govan Brown was basically it started on the pre-construction phase with the marketing team till we delivered a project. So we had a complete BIM VDC involvement through the whole life cycle. But also we had different kinds of projects. Govan Brown basically focuses on tenant fit out projects. So if we had a couple of high-rise building projects even, so at that time we had hardcore BIM coordination involvement, but for some small office spaces, the BIM coordination ran a bit differently.
Awesome. Well, thank you for introducing yourself. We'll come right back. Last up is Kinjal.
Thank
Come
you,
on.
Agarwal.
Hello.
The floor is yours.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Abarna, for organizing this. And thank you, everyone, for joining. I recently joined this group after attending a session at Autodesk University where I heard about Women in BIM. And so I'm excited to be here and hoping to get more involved in future. So I'm Kinjal Ajmera. I went to UC Berkeley and graduated with bachelor's in architecture and a minor in global poverty and practice. So, and I am a licensed architect as well, and I've been in the industry for about almost 10 years now. My journey kind of, I feel like a lot of our journeys are kind of unique because BIM VDC is not commonly known during college and universities. So for me, I entered the profession just like a traditional architecture degree student would. And I got my internship where that was kind of my introduction to getting licensed and also Revit. And when my first real life project after the internship, it happened to be a $2 billion project. And it was a transit project for Metro in Los Angeles, and it was like 8 stations. So you can imagine it already had a lot of this coordination and BIM aspects to it. And I happened to get a lot of technical tasks, and by chance, I enjoyed it, and it helped that I would pick those things up pretty quickly, and I was good at it. So I was this unofficial BIM lead, if you will, for a few projects before I had to kind of carve out the opportunity to be a real BIM manager on a project. So I overheard that there was a need on a MLS stadium project for a BIM manager, and they didn't have anyone. And so I had to kind of take that initiative and see if that's something, an opportunity that they would be willing to let me test out. And they did. They said yes, they were happy to. And I've basically never looked back since then. I've been BIM manager on multiple large complex projects since then. And now at HMC, I'm part of a digital practice group. We are like the technology infrastructure for the firm of about over 300 people in 6 different offices. So there's a group of 9 of us, and we support all projects in all offices. And the group consists of BIM technology, design technology, training, and content. So we cover all the bases, and we also work very closely with IT.
Awesome. Have you ever experienced having difficulty getting external team members to collaborate?
Yeah, because so at HMC we are fully like cloud platform, so all of our projects are on the cloud, and I feel like most of the consultants now are too, but you know, there was a time where it was hard to get everyone to work in the cloud. Even now, if you have CAD consultants, it's not easy to get them to work in cloud and update their files there. So that, you know, the repetition of holding kickoff meetings and kind of having standards for ourselves helps us make the consultants be accountable for that, because they know it's not just going away after this project. So just reiterating that, and like I said, most of our consultants have no issues now collaborating with us on the cloud.
Awesome, thank you. So I'd like to invite Khushbu and Dalia back onto camera so that we can get the conversation started. And attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw it into the chat. We will definitely do our best to incorporate that as part of our conversation today. But in the meantime, while we wait for those questions to come in, some questions that I kind of wanted to ask was, and I guess I'll start with Dalia. Have you incorporated data management and security in any of your projects? And is that something that you've been, if you have, is that something that you've been implementing for some time, or is that a recent initiative that your company has been endorsing?
I think it depends on the client. Most of our data is still stored on the cloud, on the Autodesk Construction Cloud. We do have more sophisticated clients that do require specific data management practices. So they require either on-prem servers, or they want us to store the data on their own servers. So particularly, I think in the mission critical world, we'll get those requests where there are certain clients who really don't want their data stored outside of their platform. So that's been a bit of a challenge, because by the nature of the software we use, right, we have to we have to live on the cloud a lot with a lot of our tools. But we, again, as a standard practice, we use most of the Autodesk Construction Cloud data storage solutions, I guess.
Have you had a situation, and this is something I experienced, where clients were just not on board to using Autodesk Construction Cloud, but they wanted to vet it? We've had an instance where the client took about 4 months to vet it. Why it took 4 months, honestly, I don't know. But an open question to the 3 of you: have you had an instance where the client is like, okay, great, you're providing us with this cloud solution, but we want to make sure that we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's, we want to vet it. How have you convinced them that it's okay to utilize BIM 360, or how long has it taken for a client to come around the corner and finally say, okay, we're good, Autodesk Construction Cloud, let's go?
We haven't necessarily had an issue client vetting ACC or like Autodesk Construction Cloud or BIM 360 per se, but there are clients that somehow it will make them feel better if we're on their hub. So instead of hosting the projects on our hubs, we'll host it on theirs, and then they have, you know, full control to a point where they won't even allow us any project admin rights. So everything is controlled by them, and I feel that that has that kind of helps them because they can really keep an eye on who has access to the projects and not. Another instance we did have is like airport projects, very, very high security, right? So it's not necessarily the models, but the drawings. There's like a high level of security for the security drawings, and there's all kinds of vetting that has to happen for each individual on the project, and to make sure those don't get out.
Khushbu, have you experienced any instance where vetting has kind of slowed you down?
Not vetting, but I have had worked on a project where it happened that the project was hosted on the architect's cloud on their hub, and us being on the general contractor's end, our BIM execution plan, which was sent to us by them, was designed in such a way that we would be given very restricted access to the project. So that was a bit of a difficult task that they used to share the models with us, and sometimes the consultants used to forget to upload it in our folder. We won't get updated models for months, and it would be very difficult to do the coordination and collaboration amongst the team, and it was a headache.
I feel you. I feel you. Oh my. We have a question from the audience, from the attendees, I'm sorry. What is one quality you think you have to be a successful BIM manager? If each of you can provide us with your insights, that'll be great. Dalia, go for it.
I'll go for it, sure. I'm going to say curiosity. It's one of those things where I feel like I'm learning almost every day, whether it's a skill, whether it's something that I'm learning about a piece of equipment that we're installing and their operation. Just keep curious, right? And keep investigating. I think it's a great way to really enjoy the position. It always keeps you on your toes.
Kinjal, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm trying. So I guess two words come to mind. One is we had an exercise amongst our team recently to discuss our values and what is it that we value the most, right, as part of this group. So vision comes to mind because it's similar to what Dalia is saying. Like you got to be curious and you got to have a vision of how something can work, and then implement that, you know, plan out the strategy and then implement it. And along the way, the other word comes to mind is patience, because we do deal with, you know, so many just different personalities, different tools, different software, like a lot of diversity in many different ways you can define. So I think, yeah, patience and vision.
Khushbu?
I would say the first thing a BIM manager should do is resource and structure your VDC support team. You will need it, a resourceful team, because as the number of projects will increase, you will have to multitask. So you'll have to have a proper schedule, organize your schedule properly, because multitasking at a certain point gets so much into your head. So you need to stay ahead of the curve and put some time aside to learn something new, because being a BIM manager, you'll have to stay up to date with the industry trends and network and bring something new on the table for your team and for the company. So yeah, be innovative.
Those are great. And I'd like to add one to that. It's a stretch from Kinjal's patience, which is having a good, for lack of a better term, having a good bedside manner. As a BIM manager, you're an educator at the end of the day, and you're working with people from all walks of life, whether they just entered the industry as an intern or all the way up to the director or president or CEO. There are going to be questions coming down the pipeline, and there have been many times where I've worked with a team member who's basically smacking their keyboard that, Revit's not working. And you just kind of have to help calm them down by you being super calm, cool, collected. So I would add that to the list of, yes, being patient with everything happening around you, but also finding a way to calm down those that are typically the type of people that'll walk themselves off a ledge, again, for lack of a better term. Great responses. A few more questions from our attendees. The next one I have here is, what advice would you give recent college graduates who want to pursue a career in BIM? Great question. We'll switch it up. Khushbu, you go first.
I would say be curious and don't settle for an existing tool. We have Google now. So we are Google generation. So if you get stuck somewhere, you can always find an answer there. Also, keep searching for ways to do things better, faster, and also cost effectively, because I would say BIM field, our main task is to save money and time for our client. So find ways. Also participate. You have to be good with people. To be collaborative, you have to work with people from all the industries. So big, and also articulate those strategies to develop the business.
Great answers. Kinjal.
Yeah, I'm trying to kind of live back to when I graduated and see how I could, maybe take a better, quicker path, I guess. Something that comes to mind is getting involved. So there's like, most regions now have what are called Revit user groups or BIM user groups that are related to these topics. I think getting involved so that you start building a network early on, and also just learning, because again, it's not something that they teach you. There is no like, oh, there might be now some BIM paths in the universities, but it's still not like having a bachelor's in BIM, like that's not a thing. So I think being curious, like Khushbu was saying, and going to those events, and even if you start working somewhere, like we do this, when you start working somewhere, if your BIM team or design technology team, whatever they're calling it at that company, see that you have that hunger for being tech savvy, being curious, being Revit savvy, you ask questions, then they may start pulling you for like pilot groups. We do that. We pull out like our BIM leads for pilot groups and testing new software, stuff like that. So you can start getting involved that way. And then easily, if an opportunity comes up, then, they're going to have you in mind. So that's kind of what I can think of.
Awesome. Dalia?
I really appreciate both of your opinions, right? I think, and again, being in both worlds, both in the design world and the construction world, I'm gonna give advice to anybody who's interested in joining construction, the construction side of things. I think as an industry, construction has a little bit of a bad reputation. It's not super popular as an option for careers. I think it's one of the lowest rated ones actually as options for young graduates. And it's in a way in the leading edge of like technology. There's so many opportunities to become a subject matter expert in this field. However, if you do decide to join construction and use your technical knowledge in construction, I would encourage anybody who's new to the field to go on the site. Go and walk your jobs, go and meet the superintendents, go and meet the trades, there's so many lessons to be learned, not only from their knowledge, but also how you can bring your skills to help them improve processes or educate them or document things. There's so many opportunities to bring new technologies in the field right now. It's super exciting.
That definitely applies to anybody, not just who's touching a construction project. I think everybody at some point in time needs to get their shoes dirty in the sand or dirt and, you know, just see what's going on. But for those that don't have the opportunity and you go to a restaurant, just look up. Go to Walmart, look up. You're seeing everything that you're modeling and you'll be able to kind of connect the dots. At least that's what I do. And sadly, I've brought my husband into that too. We'll be sitting at a restaurant and be like, hey, that's the duct and this is the air handling and yada, yada. But I digress.
I want to add to what Dalia just said too. I think in order to be a good BIM or VDC manager, you kind of need that foundation of information from both architecture and construction. Like, you cannot be a good BIM or VDC manager if you don't know your ducts, how to coordinate, how to take a project from SD to all the way through construction. So it's like foundation knowledge that's required.
And to connect the dots with all of this, for those of you, the students that are here, or those of you that just entered your industry or entered the industry, don't be afraid to share your ideas. Everybody wants to evolve. Every company wants to grow. If you see something somewhere in one aspect of your life that you think would be beneficial to another aspect of your life, so you see something in your volunteer group, but you think it'll be great in the company you work for, or vice versa, share your ideas. What's the worst that can happen? The worst is it won't get implemented. That's it. So don't be afraid to share the ideas, because like the lady said here, you may mention it now, but when the right time comes, you are going to be the person that your boss or your colleague or someone's going to reach out to and say, hey, you mentioned this a few months ago. Tell me more. And there's a conversation starter right there. Thank you, everyone, for your responses. We got a couple more questions. I'm going to start with you, Kinjal, and then we'll go around again. Looking to the future, where do you see your career in 5 to 10 years?
It's my favorite question. That's a good question. I mean, so I've asked myself in the past time and time again, like, what's next? Like, because here is a path to becoming a principal. What's that path for BIM or VDC? For me, at HMC, I can see myself taking it from being a BIM manager to a regional BIM manager, or even a company-wide, like, director of BIM technology. And even beyond that, I can see there's so much learning to do. I can even see taking other branches like VDC manager or pre-construction. There are other things that we can do, just like how in architecture you can go plannings, urban design, whatever, landscape architecture. Same thing with this field. You can take other kind of branches just based on curiosity. So I can see myself kind of going towards VDC 2 just to get even more knowledgeable about field and how buildings are put together. Not sure, we'll see.
Dalia?
I was muted. I think a path of growing, right? If you want to grow your career, you have to start training people that are younger and less experienced. You have to start in a way teaching, right? Teaching people a lot of your skills, teaching as many people as possible. Even if they don't become experts in BIM, they are familiar with the tools, so they can start picking up simpler tasks. So you start teaching that way, frees some more time for you to either test new technologies or implement maybe a firm-wide strategy. So you have a little more time for this more organizational management tasks. I think a lot of times when I get those, I was like, where am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to be in 10 years? And I'm just paraphrasing right here. I don't remember exactly the quote, but I think it was President Obama who said something about he was lost at some point in his career, and he returned to focusing on the work. And he was saying, if you're focused on the work, there will always be growth, because by getting things done, your mind is in it, so you're trying to get more efficient, faster, better at what you're doing. So I think the growth comes from loving it, from loving what you're doing.
Agreed. Kushbu?
So I transitioned already from my career of BIM manager to a specialist role in Autodesk last year. I was working on that side of the screen, and now I'm working on the other side. So as being in BIM, I think almost all of us use Autodesk software. So right now I support softwares, Revit and Navisworks at this company. Over here, it's a vast pool of technology and software. So yes, I would say down the road, I have always been curious about learning new softwares. So I would like to increase my area on that. Maybe collaborate with new construction trends coming up. And I like that I said, the change, growth and career and change. So something like that. But it's a new path I have started walking on last year. So let's see where it takes me.
Definitely a lot of room for growth. I completely agree. If you're not at the consultant level or the designer level, you can always be behind the scenes. There are quite a few companies that want to get in with Autodesk. That much I know. Who they want to create a software and wait for Autodesk to buy them out. The additional 20 software they buy out every single year. You can be on that software side of being the subject matter expert over there. Or I had a brief but wonderful opportunity to be a QA tester for the software, bringing all the knowledge that I had with the different disciplines that I worked with in the past. So there are different sides to BIM that you can always explore. And sometimes I'm afraid of all the software that Autodesk is going to release in the following year, because you're like, oh crap, by the time I got this version down packed, there's the new version of this software, and then these three new add-ins, and then the two new software that client is now implementing. So there's always room for growth. It may not be the title, but it's the skill set that will come into play. Next question.
And to
Sorry.
add to that, sorry, Aparna, I like you said that like we all know, we have been in this industry for more than 10 years. We know that it's constantly evolving. So, and BIM is at the end of the day technology. So I feel that, yeah, you being a new BIM person in the industry, you have to be a subject matter expert in this field at least.
So those of you students that are in the call today, if you're going to work in Autodesk and you want to be in the 3D space, get into Revit. And I would also add Navisworks in there too. That'll open up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah.
You can go in any direction with just those two software. Awesome. The next question we received is, how do we quantify the cost saved using BIM? I'm going to open it up to all three of you. Whoever wants to jump in, go ahead.
I can start because I think I touched base on it already. So again, for us being in construction, working with our subcontractors, or we call them trade partners, right? They're our partners. It's very synergistic. So I think that's really why Navisworks picked up as a tool. It works for us because we can anticipate any issues, but it also works for them, again, for advantages of assembling things in their shops as opposed to in the field, right? So they're more efficient with their time, they're more efficient with their material. So you can quantify the use of this technology by how much money is saved by preventing change order, by preventing rework in the field. Sometimes you're more efficient with your personnel, right? So the staff that actually is required to install this. So all of those things save time and materials, and that's really always attached to a dollar sign.
Yeah, I can go. Tracking is not always easy if you don't have data from your existing workflows, right? So I feel like that's important. So, for example, knowing how many RFIs a certain size project gets, you know, for a collection of the life of farm. So I give you an example. So we started implementing model coordination on projects. So, you know, running clash detection, catching all the big stuffs to avoid change orders and RFIs during construction. So now as projects start implementing that strategy, the idea is really to see, okay, how many RFIs are we getting on the projects that we did this on versus a project of that size would normally get. And then you can kind of translate those into hours and money and quantify it that way. That's just an example, but I think, you know, the existing data is important. If you don't have that, then we have to start collecting that. We're doing the same thing for scripts. So if someone knows how long it takes to create a facade of panels manually, that's an existing data. And then now we have scripts where we can track how many times the script gets used. And each time you multiply it by that hour, and that's how you quantify it. So those are two examples that come to mind.
I would say a basic example, almost all being on a construction site, we come across during the BIM coordination process is waste or storm pipes that are routing through the ceiling, and they clash against those around the ductwork. And I think that is the main zone where we see a lot of clashes because storm pipes go in slope and they have to go across the perimeter of the building in the slopes. So to make sure that we can get those two systems passing each other without causing the conflict. It's just not that, but also along with that, we have a major issue that the design team is looking to make sure that we construct or the design they gave us. Our trades are not on board. So first step is to convince all of them to get on board. And then our trades can give us like if there is a change order, they can give us a calculative cost that might happen if there is this change happening, if there is a base building storm pipe already existing to move that and then put in a duct and everything. So that's how we can reduce the cost, and that's how we can change the design during the pre-construction phase and save that cost from happening in the future.
Love it. 3 different perspectives on how there can be cost savings. So for the attendee who asked, I hope you got more insight onto that. Next question that we received is, what is a new construction technology that you are really excited about implementing? I like this.
Dahlia.
So many. So many. I think at the moment, I'm very guilty of getting very excited about new technology overall. I want to try them all. So I think in a way I have to curate my own testing abilities and time, right, for this. So curate my desire for it. I have 2 in mind right away. One of it is reality capture. I know there's a lot of mobile scanners and LiDAR scanners that are incredibly time efficient these days, and you get really accurate data fast and with a very quick onboarding curve, right? So you don't need a whole lot of sophisticated skills to do these. You here for a second. There we go. I apologize. I don't know if you can see me or not. I completely lost my whatever. Speaking of technology.
All good, we can hear you.
Give me one quick second. So one of it is one of those those exciting things for me is the reality capture. The idea that you can take this data at any moment in construction and compare that with your coordinated model, and see the accuracy of this installation is super exciting. So that's one of them. The other one, I think the word of the day is AI, and I think we're starting to see that move into generative design for our purposes. So for generating electrical conduits or ductwork, right? So we're starting to see that, not necessarily the coordination level, but speaking of the 5 to 10 year path, we're probably getting there. So I'm excited about how that can change our processes and make us more efficient.
AI definitely scares me, but that's a different topic that we'll come to next.
It's speculative at the moment, but it feels like it's within the tangible future.
Who knows? So Khushbu, any new technology that you're excited to implement from an Autodesk standpoint? What's the trend?
Sorry. Okay, so for me, being in this field, I scanners, like Dhalia said, then drones, and also nowadays I don't know, I think I saw it last year or during the pandemic. There is this robot dog which is used to walk on the site for the 3D layouts and to capture the as-built conditions. Also, recently I saw this advertisement of Meta Quest Pro, the glasses, where they wore that and it was used, and they have a snippet of the construction portion in that, construction in metaverse. So that was something I'm very excited to see. Like some company in the world might implement that. They have a plan and they, okay, this thing is not accessible in the plan. They go into the metaverse and put the whole thing, or whole, like how it would look and what happens. So that was something exciting to watch and see in the future.
Kinjal.
Yeah, I think both Dahlia and Khushbu, I think everything you guys said is definitely up there on my list. You see it at conferences time and time again for the last couple of years too, and then events too. I've seen, vendors with all those fun stuff, especially the overlaying of the construction site with the model. Another one that I'm curious to see, maybe it's kind of a different approach to the construction technology, but 3D printing and how, because there's that huge shortage, right, of buildings and housing, and I think just looking outside, like thinking outside the box, seeing how it can still be well designed and be automated, and perhaps with materials that won't kill us all. So, yeah.
I hear Habitat for Humanity is 3D printing homes. I think down here in Phoenix, I saw a news event, I guess, where they were 3D printing homes, so it expedites the process, and they make sure that everything is perfectly done to the T, not even a quarter inch off from what was designed. So really interesting to see where everything goes.
Yeah, I saw a couple of startups that presented too at Autodesk University. Sorry, Abarna, that were really taking this on, and it was really cool to hear what they're doing. So I'm excited to see if there's updates and what's come of it.
And for those of you that don't know what Autodesk University is, it's an annual conference that Autodesk provides around November every year. It's really cool. They have vendors and companies and attendees coming from all over the world to attend. About 10,000 some odd people usually attend. You can actually go on their website and see past sessions from, I believe, as far back as 2010 about anything that was ever presented. You'll be able to download their PDFs, download the videos, the recordings, or just watch live, take notes, do what you want. Great resource. Something we talked about a few minutes ago in terms of that lifelong learning. That's one of those things I would highly recommend that you watch, regardless of what topic that you want to do. You want to focus on AutoCAD, great, there's a bunch. Revit, there's a bunch. Navis, Dynamo, Recap, you name it. if you want to get into graphic design, Maya, it's all there. So please, if you don't know what it is, go check it out. A fantastic question that we have 4 minutes left in the call. Are there licenses to study for in the BIM VDC management career? Or let me modify that a little bit. Are there any educational sources out there that would be valuable for somebody, whether they're new to the industry or seasoned in the industry, that would benefit their career?
I would say there are lots of educational resources you can access on YouTube, LinkedIn Learning. Also, there are some free courses offered by EDX and Coursera or Udemy, which you can sign up for, and it has all the aspects of BIM lifecycle covered in it, be it a BIM specialist, coordinator, or a manager. So depending on your interest or the level on your career you are, you can go through them. I would say always LinkedIn networking or networking in any of the groups like Kinjal mentioned before in your regional groups. That might help. Talk with the like-minded people. Put a learning cap on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, so I think either aside from LinkedIn Learning too, there's like a lot of times when there are like paid events and stuff, they will do recordings and then put them up for available, and they're available for free. So I think that would be a good resource. There might be smaller conferences, like I know University of Southern California, USC, they do, there's a professor there who tries to really push for her students knowing like BIM and Revit and real life, alignment with the curriculum. And she hosts a conference every year, and the last couple of years it's been free and virtual, so anyone can join and you don't have to be in the area. So things like that, if you see, I guess that's part of the LinkedIn networking, if you see as you're scrolling, look out for these things that are really great free resources and very accessible.
I might be outdated in my information here, but my understanding is if you're a student and you have a .edu email, you can have access to educational software licenses from Autodesk. Kushba, I don't mean to put you on the spot with this, but I'm pretty sure that's still the case.
Yeah.
So try out the software first, jump in there, and there's tons of resources there, as mentioned before. But get your feet wet. Get your feet wet and see if you like it, right? If you jump in that software, don't get frustrated. Sometimes picking up a new software can be a little like it's not necessarily the most intuitive thing, but Google it. I don't mean to sound snarky with that, but if you run into any issues as soon as you start, getting into the software, I think both Kinjal and Kushba mentioned it. There's tons of tutorials out there that are available for free, but just dive in.
That's a really good point, actually, because the way I learned Revit in the very, very beginning is I modeled my family's home in Revit. It's like that was a good way to, hey, well, they don't have a model or documentation for their house anyway. Good way to get them this drawing, and I can learn along the way how to put a drawing set together, how to work the software, and you use so many different features. So yeah, that's a good point.
I have an addition to comment to that. For anybody who's trying to learn Revit, every time we onboard more junior staff trying to learn that don't have a Revit experience, I always try to tell them it's a database. You're working with multiple databases linked to each other as opposed to just a modeling software. So I think you have to have a little bit of a different mindset when you first learn the software. Then it's not as intuitive as like drafting by hand or modeling in a traditional modeling or sculpting type software. So think about what I mean by it being a database. Every decision is going to affect a series of other elements in your model. So don't get frustrated if that happens and breaks your model. It'll happen in the beginning.
Definitely. Oh, I think all four of us have seen quite the number of models that break, freeze, and then causes the blue screen of death for whatever reason. We're like, how? One thing I'd like to add for the licenses question is don't assume that licenses is going to get you the job. Hands-on experience is what's going to get you the job. Now, once you've entered the industry and you've been there for some time, start exploring other job descriptions, not for the purposes of, well, if you're interested, by all means, apply to those other jobs. But if you love your company and you want to grow within your company, you see a future in your company, I would recommend looking at those other job descriptions just to see what software are they mentioning, what concepts are they mentioning. If you check, once a year, every 6 months, whatever it is, you're going to see something new, and then you'll be wondering, okay, what is that thing that they're talking about? What is the skill set? Are they mentioning Rhino? Are they mentioning Tekla, Grasshopper? What are these things? And you start researching and then bring that idea to your company, and maybe your company can pay for you to get trained on it, or the vendor can come and do a demo for your company and you're the person that's going to learn it. Whatever it is, there are avenues. But diving directly in for a license, I personally don't know a license per se, other than, when you're a certified architect or a certified engineer, you have that. PMP, you have that. But for BIM directly, yes, we have the CM BIM. We've got the CAN BIM certification up in Canada. We have those, but for those, they are very different. For CAN BIM, you've got to put hundreds, if not thousands of hours in to earn it. For CM BIM, it's a lot of studying, but it's more theoretical. There's no practical component to it. So it all depends on where you are in your career and what discipline that you're in, or what angle or what aspect of BIM that you're in. Even on the VDC side, I don't think there's anything pertaining to licenses, but it's just ongoing learning, lifelong learning. That's what's going to get you there and move you further up the ladder, and stay open-minded. That's all I can add to this at this point. But looking at the time now, we are 3 minutes over. Thank you so much, Kinjal, Khushbu, Dalia, for all of your insight for today's session. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you to all the attendees for your great questions. If you have additional questions, you know where to find the ladies. Find them on LinkedIn, connect with them, ask them questions, and hopefully your career will be able to benefit from today's session. And as I had mentioned before, hopefully you took a picture or got hold of that QR code from earlier in today's presentation. Your feedback for Women in BIM would be greatly appreciated. We do want to try and have more events like this. On behalf of the Phoenix chapter, we intend to try and have virtual events every other month if possible. So if there are any topics that you want to learn about, if you want to be a speaker, please reach out to me. And I'm more than happy to have a chat with you to get the ball rolling. But otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for jumping in on the call today. This recording will be up on YouTube and the Women in BIM event website. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, ladies.
Bye.